Let's go to Austin, Texas now and bring in criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett. Sam, this case, the federal government wins most cases. They just don't go to trial unless they get a W. But this one seems like the Diddy camp has a chance. Not that he's a horrible guy, not that he's an abuser. He's guilty of all of that, and that's been proved beyond a reasonable doubt. But the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the RICO statute, do you think the federal government is there yet?
I think they still have work to do. This expert they've called is very typical in abuse cases. We call it a drive-by expert, where it's not a person who's actually talked to anybody involved in the case, but they're just there to lay a template for the jury to try to counter one of the problems that the government has with their case, which is Cassie Ventura, the primary witness, was in a relationship for a long period of time with the defendant. And a lot of people commonsensically would say, well, why did you stay so long if it was so bad? And so this expert is beginning to lay the groundwork to explain to the jury a counter argument to that theory.
Yeah, certainly. Let's talk about the prosecution's burden here, because we say the sex trafficking RICO case against Sean Diddy Combs, and of course the prosecution saying this is what he was doing. He was creating these situations for commercial sex acts to happen, that he was forcing people to do it, and that this was by intimidation. He was the one enticing it, all of that, Sam. But do you think that the prosecution has to educate the jury on what sex trafficking can be? It doesn't sound like this expert really got into that. This was more of someone to support Cassie's actions after and before certain things. But do they have to expand the definition, perhaps, for some of these jurors on what they may think in their mind is sex trafficking?
I think that's correct. When some of us think of sex trafficking, we think of young girls being put in rail cars at the border and shipped up to a city in the United States under lock and key and being controlled completely by their captors. That's an obvious sex trafficking situation. But I think the government's going to have to show the sex trafficking can be more subtle in a scenario like this. So you're absolutely correct. They have more work to do on that.
We'll see that play out. Any chance, if you're the defense here, you would entertain putting Combs on the witness stand to explain his side of the story and to say that all of this was consensual, which is what they're arguing and they argued in the opening statements?
I think you have to consider it in this case. He's probably an articulate, intelligent guy, and he's gonna, if he does take the stand, he's gonna have to fall on the sword for all of his immoral and illegal acts that didn't constitute these crimes in order to have any credibility. But it's an extremely difficult task to get somebody prepared to testify in this scenario.
You know, I actually was asked that question this morning on a podcast as to whether or not he would testify. I hadn't thought about it before because we haven't even gotten to that part, and I just couldn't imagine what he could say that would help his case. I didn't know of what words he could use that would actually help people understand any more than an expert or someone else on the stand could.
Well, I mean, he could say, yeah, I'm a freak. I am also, I was using drugs a lot, and I am very ashamed at what you saw in the elevator video. But as far as our freak-offs, everybody was down.
I don't know if that helps him or if the jury is going to take that as evidence that would help him any more than anyone else saying it. We will see. Sam Bassett, thank you for your analysis. We've got to get to a break. When we come back, we're going back to Dedham, Massachusetts, the case where we have cameras inside of the courtroom, the Karen Reed trial. While she looks through that, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett, who is standing by. I want to ask you overall about this case, Sam, because day 20, we were just talking about how long it has seemed that this trial has been going on, but it went 29 days in the Commonwealth's case the first time around. How do you think they should end their case in chief? What type of witness? Investigative, layperson, medical? What do you think?
It's hard to say. You want to finish with a bang. You want to start with a bang. So I think they're going to save one of their most persuasive witnesses for last, and I don't know who that may be, but they've spent the middle of their case doing a lot of work to establish that the collision occurred at a certain time, and that there's forensic evidence and physical evidence to indicate that there was a collision out there in front of the house. So at the end, I think you really want to finish with perhaps a detective or someone who will give an emotional punch at the end of the case to persuade the jury.
And we do know that they have a rebuttal case planned, and they're going to bring on another expert to refute the ARCA experts that the defense is going to bring on. So it'll be a battle of the experts. Overall, this retrial seems to have really benefited the Commonwealth. They've redone the playbook. They brought in some
new evidence.
New evidence, and then also, let's face it, Hank Brennan has done a fantastic job of leading this team. The defense seems like they went back to the same playbook to basically the same thing in Karen Reed 1 we're seeing play out here so far. What are your overall thoughts on the advantage maybe the Commonwealth's picking up here on the retrial?
In my experience, almost every retrial is advantage prosecution because they've already seen the defense case, or at least a good part of it, and to the extent that this defense shifts some. They seem to have emphasized in opening a more technical type defense with their experts. So, I think the Commonwealth is looking fairly strong at this point with regard to her being convicted of some charge. But I don't know that they're going to get there on the highest of the charges. But again, we have to wait. I tell jurors all the time, please wait until the defense is finished before you make your assessment of the case. So there's a lot to come in the last 10 or so days, however long this takes.
Oh yeah, it is still early, and despite the fact that we've been at it for 20 days. Let's get to our break. We have more testimony from the Karen Reed murder retrial. That analyst on the stand will pick it up right where we are leaving off. Thanks for being with us.